Hey, what's going on guys? I'm Season4 here. When I did my V Tachikaze deck profile for Spinodriver back in a few long time ago, I said before that Spinodriver as well as the V call support for Tachikaze was very generic, and I covered the TADs as an example of a deck that you could splash with Spinodriver. I'm here to actually showcase another way you could actually play Spinodriver, which is with Gaia. So if you missed out that previous video, I will link it in the description below. The same way I will link the old Spinodriver video to this video that I'm putting up now. So just stay tuned for that. Like I just mentioned, these are using the same cards as Spinodriver, but you notice this deck takes a completely different direction. All the TADs are gone, and instead we are now focusing on a more gauge-based deck with Gaia. Gaia, as you probably know, is a deck that really focuses on having everybody with a gauge, and then you just pop off with multiple attacks with good numbers. You do minus with Gaia every turn because Gaia is inherently just a side one to get power, which is not that good, but it is quite good when used well with a way to actually coherently plus enough to refund Gaia to make it quite good, which is what Spinodriver does, since Spinodriver is an excellent plussing way to do things. So let's actually break this deck down and see what we can do. Our grade 3 lineup, we obviously play 4 copies of Spinodriver, 3 copies of Gaia, and then we play, yes, I was able to afford it once again. I managed to buy myself 4 Heal Guardians. So let's break it down. Heal Guardians are Heal Guardians. I really don't have to explain this. Spinodriver, I've already explained in my previous video, but I will just break it down for the sake of those of you who are new to Spinodriver, as well as the Ancient Dragon lineup. When you reveal a trigger, if this unit is on your rear guard once per turn, you can add 1 gauge to itself. It's a compulsory gauge, so you kind of have to do it. Just not bad, you know, it's a free +1 gauge. As a rear guard, alone Spinodriver is already pretty good. Free gauging is just great, just have to pull the trigger. Its main skill is what you're here for. When placed on a Vanguard circle or when rode upon, counterblast 1, choose 2 of your own rear guards and retire it. You may then draw a card, and then after that you gain an Excel marker, and then after that you call a card from your hand to a rear guard circle, choose 2 of your units, and they get 5,000 power. A lot to break down, a lot of words, but that's what we're here for. Essentially, if you didn't read that, Spinodriver is forcing you to sack 2 of your own when he attacks or when he's rode upon. Then after that, you draw a card, you get an Excel gift, you call a card, and you choose 2 units, it gets 5. So if you're doing this when he attacks, it's essentially just extending for multi-attacks, which is great. Or if you ride upon him, you're just gaining more cycle pressure, you're killing 2 of your own to get a +2. Why +2? You know, you only drew 1. Well, I'm assuming you're playing XL2, so you would have drawn another card. But if you're playing XL1 for some very queer reason, that works as well. But then you're just minusing yourself more for more power. But that's not what we want. We are using Spinodriver to plus off because Gaia will already do all the minusing for us. Setting Spinodriver up as your first ride is very important for, I would say, 80% of the matchups. There are only some matchups where you straight up just not bother trying to build up for a more deadlier endgame than to just kill him here now with Gaia. So do keep in mind that is why Spinodriver is at a 4, whereas Gaia is a 3. It's not that much of a priority to ride Gaia first. So yeah. But now that we have Spinodriver out of the way, let's talk about the new guy, or really old guy since the dinosaur. This is Gaia. Gaia has 2 skills. During your turn, all units with gauge gain 5,000 power. If your opponent's grade 3 or greater, they get 10,000 power instead. So as soon as he hits grade 3, you just hit off with an instant free Vanquisher effect by giving all your gauge units 10k. Of course, this doesn't just apply to the front row. Your back row can also be empowered by the gauge, which is, hey, not bad. But if you're going first, then it's ultimately just 5k, which is still good, you know, it's like playing Night Rows. But then again, your instant drawback will obviously be, you have to gauge them first, so it's not exactly free. And since you're already doing all that pressure, 10k is definitely better than 5k. So that is really why Spinodriver is used as the first ride, because on the first ride, Gaia doesn't do much. And you may be saying, are you sure? Yes, let's see second skill. When he attacks, counterblast 1, choose one of your own rearguard to retire it. Gaia gains the original power and critical of that unit. Yeah, that's literally it. So you sack an 8k, it gets you sack a grade 1, it gets 8k in a crit. You sack a grade 2, it gets 9k in a crit. You sack a grade 3, you may get 12k in a crit, or 27k in a crit if you sack the larger Tachikaze grade 3, which is not bad, but really more of a normal average, you'll be sacking about an 8, 9 or 12k unit, and then you just get 12k in a crit at most, which is like, okay, but you minus for that, it's like, yeah, there's really a lot of issues with Gaia, which is why earlier this year, people were really happy to play Gaia with the Gigano card that came out in the V selection. Was it collection? I don't really know, the guy with the 2 shoulder cannons, the red looking guy. Yeah, they were really happy to play the 2 of them together because Gigano was really good at just superior calling 2 cards, engaging 2, and then you can move on to Gaia and you just swing with that. But why would you try to do that? Especially because Gigano was only when he's on the Vanguard circle. Spinodriver gives me that and an on-ride effect, which is just 20 times better altogether. That's just, yes, it's true that Gigano gives the 2 units a confirmed gauge, but gauging in this deck isn't hard, so you shouldn't need to play more jank versions of stuff to get that gauge. You might as well just focus on better plussing, better XL circles even. The XL circles give you more attackers to benefit from Gaia's skill to just bash it. So really, I would still say that Spinodriver is the superior option to combine with Gaia, but if you want to try other grade 3 units with Gaia, I think it's fine. But it's just that Spinodriver is just so brilliantly generic and just so good of a card. There's really no excuse or no reason why you would not at least try to play them together, because it's just really good. Our grade 2 lineup, we play 4 copies of the Ancient Dragon Dino Crown, who is a returning face from our old video, and then the rest, everyone else is new. We play 4 copies of Ravenous Dragon Mega Rex, as well as 4 copies of Regiment Dragon Regiodon. So, Dino Crown has the same Ancient Dragon claws, flip a trigger, it gets a gauge, same as Spinodriver. Iguana Gaunt later on is going to have the same skill. Dino Crown's unique skill is when he attacks on V or R, so last one, choose one of your own rear guards and retire it. This unit gains 10,000 power until the end of the battle. Then after that, this unit gains 5,000 power for each gauge equipped to himself. So this card is really your main beat stick. It gains 10,000 power at a minimum. If you're playing it with Gaia, you get an extra 10 to 15k because of Gaia's gauge skill. And then after that, with your extra gauges, you also gain 5,000 power each. So this is kind of like the way you play Super Kanto. You stack all your gauges and you just start swinging. Yeah, this guy kind of does similar things too, except that, he's an Ancient Dragon, and he's not bad because he also sacks. The sacks is really what we want because he can help pop off your stuff like Regiodon to superior call and extend your attacks further for stuff like your Gaia turn. So all in all, just very self-complementary why you would really play this package together. Sack means retire, in case you're not sure. You retire your Vega. Then of course, speaking of Regiodon, we should just cover it. Regiodon. When he attacks on VOR, you may place the top card of your deck as a gauge, which is not bad. It's a free gauge. There you go. Your free gauging is there. Second skill. When he is retired, once per turn, hard once per turn, you may superior call one of these units' gauge to a rearguard circle, and then you may gauge it with the top card of your deck. So it's an extender. You kill off this guy, you superior call one of his gauges, so make sure your gauges were of good quality, and you instantly get a free attacker. And you can gauge it, which means it can then benefit from Gaia's skill to get power. So, wow, that's really good. I must mention that all of his effects are a may clause, not a must. So you may choose to straight up just not do it if you're going to deck out, or you just look at the top card, you'll be like, oh, it's a trigger, I don't want to put it, I want to leave it on top. That's brilliantly fine as well. Regiodon is just really flexible and really affordable and really good, so I would recommend you to play it. Yeah. Then of course we have a returning face for all 2010 Mega Rex Tachikaze players. It's Ravenous Dragon Mega Rex. He's been reprinted multiple times in V series, so quite affordable. When he attacks on VOR, choose one of your own rearguards, retire it, and draw a card. So now he's sacking your own rearguards to cycle. You can do it on turn 2, you can do it on turn 3. The sacking is good once again because of stuff like Regiodon. You can really extend, and then after that, After that, you may choose to counterblast 1, install a gauge from the top of your deck, 2 Mega Rex, and then he gets 5,000 power for each gauge installed on him. So, at its bottom line, it is a free Cycle 1 set to open up a multi-attack, and then if you want to go even further, you can choose to spend a counterblast to gain more power and just gauge, which is not bad. It's not bad. The way this skill is tiered in its multi levels of usage is just really what makes Mega Rex very flexible, in my opinion. I know there are people who really enjoy stuff like Spino Extort. That's fine as well, but Mega Rex just being free on a basic level is really just what I'm here for. And the fact that you can actually pay cost to get more skills. It's just great. Our grade 1 lineup, we play obviously 4 copies of our grade 3 Searcher, Prism Bird. Great art, by the way. 3 copies of Savage Shooter. We play 3 copies of Ancient Dragon, Iguana God. And we play 4 copies of Blueprint. Let's break it down. Our grade 3 Searcher is Prism Bird. His skill is he gains 5,000 power if a gauge is installed this turn. Simplistic, gets to the point, searches your grade 3s that you need. No reason not to play. Our next card is Blueprint. Blueprint has, I really kid you not, the exact same skill box as Regiodon. Even down to the hard once per turn clause. So as long as you just remembered what I just said about Regiodon, you literally just copy and paste it onto Blueprint. It's just more of the same, which is great because Regiodon is a great card to have. So more of him is obviously better. Moving on to our grade 1s, the rest, that is, the ones that need more explanation. Outside of Iguana God. Iguana God is the last of our primitive, more ancient dragon stuff. As usual, when you reveal a trigger, once per turn he gets a gauge. Okay, cool. Second skill, when he is retired during your turn, you may counterblast 1 and superior call him as rest to a rearguard circle. Now, if he died with a gauge, you may choose to minus this counterblast cost by 1, which essentially means you can pull him back for a counterblast 1, or if he was gauged, you pull him back for free. That really helps because in Tachikaze you have plenty of sacking, as I showed. So why not just change, the amount of sacking you do with stuff like this to actually become free pluses? Because when you minus to get an effect, you're kind of trying to net off, and with stuff like Iguana God, you get it back. So it's just wonderful. You only need 3 copies of Iguana God, in my opinion, because really he doesn't do that much besides being just a punching bag for other dinosaurs. 4th is kind of bricky because by himself he really doesn't do anything as well. Maybe the only saving grace of having 4 Iguana God is the fact that he's a self-gauging grade 1, which means you could boost with 18k with stuff like Gaia, I guess. But I found through multiple rounds of playtesting that 3 Iguana God is really self-sufficient. There are Tachikaze players out there who do not even believe in Iguana God and deem him at a 0, as in don't play him at all. But to me, I still feel he's got his niche applications to warrant a slot in this deck. And of course, last but not least, we have Savage Shooter. Savage Shooter has 2 skills. When placed on the Vanguard Circle, Soul Blast 1, draw a card, superior call a card from your hand, and engage it. Because it's superior call, you could install something on turn 2 as easy as a Spinodriver, or you could even install a Dino Crown on turn 1, sorry. It's just that easy to already have them on the board to benefit from any triggers you pull and engage. Great, I love it. I couldn't ask for more. The second skill is where it gets even better. You may rest this unit, choose a card from your drop zone, and engage it onto one of your rear guards. You can now toolbox your entire graveyard to act as gauges. So when I talked about stuff like, Regiodon, and I said make sure your gauges are good, this is an easy way to make sure your gauges are good, because you know what's in the drop zone, you can actively select it and put it in as a gauge. Really, it's just not bad. But of course, the downsides are quite simple. First of all, you must rest it, so you can't use this as part of beat now. Yeah, that's really about it. But I think that the 3-off is fine because you have too many, it also clogs your deck. Savage Shooter is very similar to Iguana God, where they are more utility cards rather than actual beating cards. So I would say you don't need 4 Shooter. You could play 3, but if you want to play 4, I think it's perfectly fine because Shooter is a brilliant card. At our grade 1 slot, our grade 0 slot, we obviously play our triggers. 4 crit sentinels, 8 fronts, and the return of our heal guardians, and then our grade 0. I picked the minimum Kano, but Dragon Egg is a wonderful choice. Heal guardians, I'm sure you know by now. Crit sentinels and fronts. Where's the draw? You don't need draw because this deck pluses itself quite easily from the top of your deck. Any other form of draw is just going to be decking you out much faster. And it's really fine because, especially stuff like Spinodriver, your plussing problems are solved in terms of how you actually get your pieces, in my opinion. I think it's wonderful. So you can focus your triggers more on an offensive edge, which is why you see nothing but pure aggression right here. Fronts are definitely more better than crits, in my opinion, because you will be building a large front row with your Excel markers generated from Spinodriver. So just keep that in mind. But since we don't have a front sentinel, a crit sentinel will suffice. And that actually wraps it up for our Spinodriver / Gaia deck profile. So yeah, I mean, this is another example of, you know, how Spinodriver works with Tachikaze. It's already been 2 decks, and you can see that it just blends in wonderfully with anything that you throw it at. I would say you could try it with Gigano Blazer, you could try it with, you know, Giga Rex even. I would say it's fine. It's just that good. This is just another example I wanted to bring up. Thank you all so much for watching. After this, what else do you want me to review? Put it down in the comment section below, and I'll see what I can do. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.